Hey, 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 and welcome to Life Class. We have a very special guest joining us tonight. I am happy to welcome Queen to Life Class. How you doing, Miss Funmi Franklin?
Hey girl, what's up?
Man, listen, welcome to Life Class.
I'm delighted to be here. I always enjoy conversing and kikiing and cacaing with my girl.
Man, listen, we have been on this road, this healing journey for I don't know how long, from the house of Tougaloo. I mean, listen, we have really been on this journey a long time. And so I just thank you for
Yeah,
answering the call every time I call. So
of course.
let's jump right into it. First start off by telling the people a little about yourself. How did you get on this healing journey? And we will just go from there.
My particular healing journey started when I was about 13 years old when my dad transitioned. His transition was really heavy for me, first off, because I was 13 and didn't really know how to process it. But also, I had a spiritual movement because I was able to see his earthly body and his spirit separate. Now, I don't know why God showed that to me and allowed me to see that so early because I didn't know what to do with it. But what I learned right then in that moment was that there was more to life than just living and dying. There was more. And I'm thankful for that experience because it gave me some perspective about spiritualism, even religion. So that was the first thing that happened to me. After that, I just went down through the valley um, so far that only God could lift me up. And all of that was a part of the plan to get me to be who I am today, to create the healer that I am, to create the seer that I am, to be able to read energy, to be able to acknowledge and have empathy for other people and what they're going through. So it started at 13 and it's just an ongoing process. Healing is one of those things that just doesn't ever stop. You're constantly growing, constantly, evolving. And people think that once you get it, I don't know if you'll ever get to a completely healed state. I think you can heal certain things, but there's always a thing that needs attention. By the time we get to the point to where there's no healing necessary, we'll be meeting God face to face.
Ooh, you better say it. You better say it.
Yeah,
Healing is a journey. It is not a destination.
yeah,
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I mean, so
for
many
sure.
nuggets in everything that you said. Like I always been saying for the last 17 years, there's a purpose behind the pain.
Yeah.
God never wastes a hurt. God used pain to push us to our purpose. And
Hmm.
here you are today.
When you get to a certain point, you're authentically, intricately thankful for the pain because
Amen.
and I know people say that all the time. I thank God for everything. I thank God for everything. But when you really can thank God in the
Ooh,
hard times, in the valley, when you are destitute and down and broken and heartbroken, soul broken, when you can be in the thick of it and know that there's a purpose for it and understand that there is a reason God is doing this for me. And when I come out of
baby.
this,
Woo,
there is a reward for me.
on the
See,
other
that's
side.
what a healed mind tells you. That's what being intentional about healing tells you. Because once you do that, you know, hard times are going to be hard times, but you know you don't stay in the hard times. You know it's just a cycle, something that you're going through. And eventually, it's not going to be there. Something else will come down the line, but you still know that there is a reason why you're in there. So, what am I learning here? What am I going through this for? What is the purpose of this? Because we know it has purpose. So, in that, you are learning more about yourself. You're learning more about who you are. And in that, you're knowing that I'm not who I used to be. A lot of people, can't get out of their own way because they're trying to be who they once were and not operating in who they are now. But when you go through trials and tribulations, you're not supposed to be the same when you come out of it. You're supposed to be different. You're supposed to have learned something. Otherwise, there's no purpose to going through it, right? So you got to go through it to get through it.
That's a purpose in going through the storm. And most people don't want to go through the storm, but it's in the storm that we are developed. And that's why we have a lot of people who are underdeveloped because they
Mm-hmm.
run away from the storms.
Mm-hmm. But the truth of
Or
the matter is, you
they
can't outrun a
medicate,
storm.
or
You
they
can't outrun
medicate,
the storm. It's gonna be there when you get back.
or
So
they
you might as well
medicate
go
through
through it.
the storm.
Right. It's gonna happen. Storms are a part of life. If everything was always blue skies and sunny skies, where's there room for growth? What are you growing from? The whole purpose is to evolve, right? To get better, to improve. So if there are no trials and tribulations to go through, how do you test your growth? It's impossible.
Exactly. And that's why we have a lot of people who, I mean, they just stagnant. I don't know who said that quote. I think it was Malcolm X. If you are the same person you were 20 years ago, you have
Yes.
wasted 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of people who have wasted 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about, and I can see, we all can see the people who have been intentionally doing this work over the years. And you can see people who are just
Capping.
existing.
Capping.
Exactly. Exactly. Because, we got receipts, baby. Receipts don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also, I mean, you got people also who won't let you grow. But
Mm.
here's the kicker. What
Ooh,
a lot of people do is they hold on to the old version of themselves because it's comfortable and it's familiar. And then they try to let go of it, but they don't let go of the people who came to be with you during that unhealed season. Once you're out of that season, they don't have a purpose anymore. So you got to be able to let go, breathe, and let go of what is going on in that season so that you can elevate yourself to the next season, because you're going to have to do the same thing again, but you need to make room for the next group of people who are ready for you in that season. It's really literally a cycle. We go through this over and over again, and every time you're supposed to be growing and getting better, becoming the best version of yourself is ultimately what we do this life thing for. So if you're not growing and the people around you are holding you back from being the best version of yourself, you're not doing anybody any favors, because down the line, there's somebody who needs to meet the person that you become in that season. So if you don't move out of that season, not only are you not elevating, but you're keeping somebody else from their blessing as well, somebody that you're supposed to be blessing. So it's all a cycle. We're all connected.
wow, wow, wow. Man, when I tell you this some deep stuff, and hey, people need to be here listening to this. They need to, participate. I think it's Les Brown that said people work harder on their jobs than they do on themselves. How can we get people to invest in themselves and do the work?
Oh, that's a good one. First of all, we need people learn by emotion, what they feel, and what they see. So, what we need is authenticity from people who know. When you own light, and by light, I mean goodness, righteousness, godliness, when you own that, regardless of how you wrapped, because people get wrapped up in if she go to church or if she dressed this way or if she talked this way, that ain't got nothing to do with it. What
Come
it
on now.
means is if you can bring people to righteousness, godliness, elevation, if you're able to do that, and some people are not going to listen to you if you come to them quoting Bible scriptures. Some people are not. The the people who need to hear you, you got to meet them where they are. You can't come talking to them about certain things in a certain way. They're not even going to hear you, let alone understand it. So one thing elevation teaches you is that you don't have to wear a mask. You can be yourself, whatever that is. The problem is you don't know who that is. So you don't know how to show up.
Ooh.
So you show up in the best way that's comfortable. Most likely you show up to how they need you to be instead of how you need you to be. So we need to authentically show up for ourselves and the people around us. We got to start being authentic about how we present ourselves. If that's flawed, then it's flawed. If it's elevated, then it's elevated. But be authentic about it. You can't heal something if you can't properly name it. So you got to be able to heal and be the light. Once you are the light, people will automatically draw themselves to you, which will ultimately start changing their thought process about what's real and what's not real. So once you do that and have real conversations and share yourself, testimony is real significant. You know,
Mhm.
share your testimony unapologetically. Because again, those trials and tribulations and those horrible, ridiculous decisions that you made back in the day were all purposeful. You wouldn't make them today, would you? So that means you've grown. So we need to start really looking at soul to soul type of love for each other. You can't make someone want to heal, but you can inspire them to want to heal. You can't, you know, what is it saying? You can't lead someone to
The horse, you
um
can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. Is that the
yes,
one?
that. Yeah. So it's not our charge to convince people to heal. Our charge is to guide them through the healing process. Well, my charge is to guide them through the healing process. It's not to convince them that they need to heal. If I did that, I wouldn't have no time to heal myself because we all need healing. Everybody needs some healing from something. So until they recognize that they need to heal, then there's really nothing you can do about it. And at some point, after we have lived enough life, we get to a mature position, hopefully, that we'll start recognizing that life is about a little more than how much money you got, what
Come on
title you
now.
have, what car you drive, what part of the city you live in, how many friends you got, if this person know you and if that person know you. Life is about a whole lot more than that.
Ooh.
Some of us get that earlier than others, but eventually you start seeing that. And then that's when it's time to get yourself together. Unfortunately, some of us waiting too late.
Wow, wow. So many gems there. One of the things that you said, and I I just reworded. You can't heal what you won't reveal. Healing starts with us being honest
Mhm.
about what's going on, who we are, where we come from. And a lot of us can't even start there. And for the people that's watching, I want you all to answer in the chat. Who told you, first of all, who told us that we had to be perfect? Let's start there. We see a lot of people pretending, did it come from mama, grandmama? Where did that come from? Who told you that you had to be perfect? What do you think, Queen? Where did we get that from?
Oh, yeah, of course it comes from childhood. It comes from where we first started setting our thoughts around who we are. That is taught to us. Our parents, our grandparents, our cousins, uncles, those first people in our lives, they teach us who we're supposed to be by how they treat us, the rules that we have to abide by, the churches that we go to, all of the traditions. They teach us what family is. They teach by what we see. That's how we learn. Truth is, though, there should come a time in your life where you start making that decision for you and not based on how you were raised. A lot of people never come out of that. They still go into the same church that they mama and grandmama and great grandmama went to out of allegiance, but they not being fed because now they soul is asking for something more. They might want to be non-denominational, but they in a Baptist church. They may feel better about that. They may not want to go to church at all. I don't know how deep you want to go, you want to get with this
Let's
thing.
go. The
But the idea
people
that you
need
can only
honest,
find God in the church,
right? People need honest, real conversations,
the idea that
and
you can only find God in the
it's crazy. It's crazy to me because Jesus didn't even have no
yeah,
church. Jesus didn't even go to church. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even have a place to lay his head.
he was the
And
church.
when people think about all these different possessions and want this and want that, and how people look up to people just because they have money, not for any other reason, only because they have money. People steal money. People do a lot of things for money. So it's not hard to get money. We have to have other values other than, looking up to people because of what they have.
Well, we living in a terrible time right now for that because we are so drawn to social media and the climate of social media only like the only purpose for it is to show what you got, who you know. The people that, especially the people younger than us, are looking up to, they look up to them because they are popular, because they look a certain kind of way, whether they were born that way or made their bodies that way. They look up to them. And so this world right now that we living in, we have to work harder to get back to that because social media is everyday life all day for everybody from ages. I done seen kids 5 and up with the phone in their hand scrolling, you know? So that's embedded in you real early. At least when I was a kid, we didn't have social media, you know? At least we had just the family stuff to work through. Now you got family stuff plus social media and influencers and all this kind of stuff. So of course these kids are going to believe that, you know, I need to look this way. I need to have these kind of friends. I need to drive this kind of car in order for me to be important. It is up to people who know better to teach them better because none of that matters. You can't take any of this stuff with you. None of it. The only thing that matters is what we carry inside. And I don't know that there is enough work being done. There are small pockets of us doing this work for sure, but it pales in comparison to the other stuff that's going on.
And that's why I try to post things that are inspirational. I try to post things that are entertaining, educational. You know, I'm well balanced. I do a little foolishness every now and then.
Mm,
I'm Most people only post one thing. They only want people to see them one way. They want to come off like they're perfect. They want to come off, like I got everything together. I'm this good Christian. And behind the scenes, they keeping up more hell than anybody, anywhere. And it's like, where do we go wrong? The math ain't math and something not adding
yeah,
up.
yeah. You know, I struggle with that too. It's a little. I don't know. I might be the only person I know in this category, but I have streamlined my timeline so tough. I don't really get a lot of the other outside stuff. I get what I want to see. I am very specific about what I want to see on my timeline. I want things that are going to lift me up. I want to see people who talk encouragingly and positively. Everybody has a bad day, and I want people to be authentic. If you're having a bad day and you get on there and you say what you got to say what you got to say. It's a bad day. Everybody human. But I don't want to see no mess. I don't want to constantly see these made up bodies, because I'm a female. I go through my stuff. You ain't gonna make me feel bad because you don't win it and bought you a $5,000 booty. I don't want that. So I take control of my own page. I don't know if people know that they can actually streamline their page because they get on there all the time talking about why am I seeing this and who did this? And I'm tired of y'all. I don't understand. Why you tired of them? Because since you got control of it, all you got to do is mute them, delete them, unfollow them. It's your page.
Whew.
So yeah, it is a tough time. It's a tough time. And I don't know what is going on with that, but people, we've gotten away from the source. We've
Mm,
gotten away from the source. It has
power.
been replaced with so many superficial things, and it's jeopardizing us. It's putting us in a bad position. If I don't believe that Donald Trump would be president if we didn't have social media.
Oh, wow.
I really don't. I really don't. Nobody. I know we ain't here to talk about that, but I just really don't believe it is really influencing a lot of aspects of our regular everyday life that should not be left up to other people's influence. That's the best way I can say it. It should be things that we're coming up with from our own life experience that that people are being influenced by just because they're seeing it constantly and it's infiltrating their mind and their core systems, and it's making them believe that that's reality when actually that's not the life you live, sis. Come on, let's be for real. It's not your life. It's not their life. So you know it's not yours. But that's what the goal is, which is unfortunate.
So, for the people that's watching, what do you think is the biggest influence on social media? Why do you think people post the things that they post? Give us some feedback. We want you to be engaged in this conversation. Definitely ask Queen questions, why we have her here. So, again, we want you all to be engaged in this conversation because we're talking about healing and being intentionally about healing, turning pain into power. Talk more about that because most people don't understand that our pain holds power.
I was in an abusive relationship for 11 years of my life. I grew up with parents who spoke power into me, who made me feel special, beautiful, loved, taught me how to honor my heritage, where we come from, named me Funmi Falion, which means to walk with dignity. Like I knew who I was, but then I got in this relationship and I fell in love with this man who I probably wouldn't have given the time of day, except that I was grieving and didn't know that I was grieving because it happened right after my father transitioned. That was my first real relationship. So I had a father wound of abandonment, which made me stay with this man because I knew I'd lost myself, but I could not leave him because I didn't want him to feel what I felt when I was abandoned by my father. So when he showed up as being controlling and demanding and physically abusive to me, the abandoned little girl in me misinterpreted that as love because of the discipline and sternness to me was a substitute for what I did not have anymore from my father. So my love was all twisted because while we were doing adult type love things, I also was looking for somebody to fill my father's shoes. And he fell into that real easily. So, him being controlling and demanding and physically abusive and verbally abusive, all of that in my head, my poor, broken, um, grieving heart received that as love. That was the pain that originally began me finding myself. I never would have left him. Eventually, after many women of him cheating many times and me constantly letting him come back and apologizing to him for making him hit me and not being woman enough
What?
to, oh girl, not being woman enough to keep him satisfied. After enough of that, he eventually found somebody he wanted for real, and he told me to go back home to my mama. So he put me out. I wouldn't have left him. I was not in
Wow.
any way, shape, or form prepared to leave him, but God.
But
God
God.
had pity on my poor little ignorant heart and said, this girl is not going to leave him. Let me make him leave her. And, then I was in Atlanta and I came back to Jackson and I was the new girl, the new yellow girl on the block. And I started getting attention from men. So I built a roster and started rolling through them, just rolling.
Not a
Uh,
roster. I love that.
you got this bill, you got this bill, you are for the bedroom, you are for my extracurricular activities, like all of that. And then eventually I had to sit in it. The God sent me my husband who loved me enough to recognize that I was traumatized even before I did. But I was very open with him about my previous relationship and the loss of my dad and my childhood. And he basically said, this is what's happening with you. You are traumatized. Every man in the world is not like him. Like, I was completely lost. And because I believed in who he was, peep this though, because I believed in who he was, not because I believed in who I was, not because I believed in who God was, but because I believed in who my husband, man at the time, because I believed in who he was, I decided I need to figure this out. I want to be better. I need to figure this out. So in that moment, I decided I was going to study myself and evaluate myself and heal myself.
Mm.
And so I started doing that. He was a partner for me in my healing process, thusly assisting me and urging me and encouraging me to turn my pain into power. Now, along the way, I had to eventually, before we got married, I had to leave him and work on my own self. And in that time alone, I figured out that most of who I had become was a result of how I had been treated. I did not trust people, not men, not women. I didn't trust anybody. So I didn't give anything to anybody at all. Everything was surface. I didn't get any in depth with anybody. I was very slow to make any kind of connections with people. Didn't trust anybody. I felt like all men cheated. I felt like all women were um, loose and untrustworthy and did not believe in friendship and sisterhood and any of that because I've been hurt all over by so many women in friendship. So I had to turn all of that around and do it for me. I had to decide to do it for me. And the truth of the matter is, I couldn't have done any of that had I not reached back into what I learned as a child that my father instilled in me about what Black women were, who we are, what we come from, how we got here, who the mothers are, who the foremothers are, the DNA running through me. I had to go through all of that. It led me all the way back to West Africa, where I started studying spiritualism and learning how to adapt that, because that felt better to me than westernized church. So I had to deal with what that felt like, because it didn't make a lot of sense to the people that was around me, because the people around me went to church. But when I went into church, I had panic attacks. It didn't feel right to me. I do have some church hurt. I was like,
Sorry.
huh?
I gotta say panic attack. Oh, so it's from the panic attack was from the church hurt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I went to a church while I was trying to figure out the God portion of my healing process. I went to church and the pastor was inappropriate with me. And I had so much admiration for him and so much admiration for the church that it, it killed it. It killed it. I was never able to get it back. And I come from a family full of preachers. And so every time I went into the church, I only went to churches that some family member, one of my family member churches. But every time I went, I couldn't make it past the announcements without crying. The last time I went to my brother's church, I went into the bathroom and cried. And God told me to get up and get out. And I went outside and stood outside until they finished church. And I actually talked to my brother about it. He, of course, had a very Christian answer. He was the pastor. He had a very Christian answer that did not resonate with me. But church was not my thing. It wasn't for me. Probably still some work I need to do in that area. But I found West African traditional spiritualism from the Yoruba tribe, and that is where I landed. That's what works for me. One thing I learned about life is that I can do what I do, have God in me, and still love and appreciate people who do, and other things. Like, I don't have this twisted version of truth that tells me that my way is the only way. That's
Come on now.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous. None of us know the way.
Hey,
None of
hey,
us.
ooh, you better
So
preach
the best
like
that
you
we
was
can
there.
do, the best that we can do is be honest and open to what God says to us individually. You know that because your soul gonna be bothered if it's wrong. If you know yourself well enough, you know when you feel convicted that it ain't right.
Yep.
But if you don't know yourself well enough, then you find yourself still doing a whole lot of wrong stuff. But I know myself. So I know when it ain't right. I know when it is right. But what Dr. J do and how she practices and what church she go to don't have nothing that doesn't influence me in any way. All
Yep.
I need Dr. J to do is be honest with herself about what she say she doing. If you say you're a Christian, I done read the Bible. I know what the Bible say. I might not be a Christian, but I know what Christians supposed to do. So I'm gonna hold you accountable for doing what Christians do. If not, then you get the same type of dealings that I would give anybody because you ain't doing what you say you believe in.
And
But
I don't even refer to myself as Christians because I don't even like the way Christians treat other Christians. You
mhm,
know, so it's like if anything, I would call myself a follower of Jesus. When
yeah,
I see how Jesus treated people, he didn't treat them the way these people treat people and just talking about sin and so I can't relate to that.
we need to come up with another word for you then, because Christian is exactly a follower of Jesus. But I get what you're saying. You don't want to be affiliated with them other folks because y'all out there wilding.
But think about it. Jesus wasn't even a Christian. That name came after. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? So, like we have a lot of us have taken these practices that were taught to us by people who enslaved us, and we have ran with it and held on to it for dear life like it's the right thing. And you say it's an abomination of God if you question God. And that's the biggest lie ever told. God don't mind being questioned.
mhm.
The truth don't mind being questioned. It's
They
the
told us that they told us a lot of things to control us. And I know people hear that and they say that's the first thing that people say when they don't want to follow the Bible. But the truth of the matter is, it is really the truth. It's really the truth. The easiest thing for you to do for a Black community is tell them that they out of line with the Bible. Now, if I was an oppressor and I wanted to oppress a whole bunch of people at one time, that would be the way that I would do it. Because you're telling me I can't question them. I gotta do whatever it say in this book. You're telling me that all the things that bring me strength, that
come on.
is power that I was born with, my rights. You telling me that I have to go through this through that and all that to get to it. When God says you are mine and you're born with it, just you got it. It's yours. But if you tell me that I got to do all this, I can't do this on this day, I got to go to here on this day, and I can only do this on it, you are controlling me. And so if I
Religion.
was an oppressor, Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd do the same thing. And I know people don't want to hear that, and I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
Yep. And, people, like you said, I have no qualms with people who go to church. Do what you feel necessary for your soul. I don't think I've been to church since the pandemic. I'm not going to make nobody else responsible for me studying the Bible, my relationship with God, um, what I decide to do with my life. I live enough of my life trying to make everybody else happy and do what people thought I should do being Dr. J.
Yeah.
But today I get up and do whatever the hell I feel like doing. And I don't care how it makes anybody else feel or what they think. And I know people saying, oh, she got a PhD and she doing this and she drive for Uber. And I got a peace of mind
Mm-hmm. Can't buy that.
at all.
Somebody say you got to know him for yourself. You, amen. Amen. And I believe that God shows up for us individually. And I don't think, I don't know, people gonna hate it, but I don't put limitations on God like that. Like I don't
Don't
believe
even
there's
limit him to a
anything.
book. I don't even limit him to a book. They limit him to the Bible.
Yes, there's that God is way bigger. He's way bigger. He's everything and all things. The
Mm.
trees, the wood that's in your house. God is in your house. He's in the makeup, the building of your house. So
What's most
what makes you
important though,
think that
God
you
is in
can't?
you. We need to tell them that God is in them. That's what they missing.
Well, yeah, they looking up to the sky for God. God is in us, but he's not just in us, he's in everything. What makes
Everyone.
you think that if you carry the power of God, why you can't touch a rock or a crystal and feel God in it? Why would you not be able to? Why wouldn't God make that possible? I don't understand the limitation that people put on God. Some of that is creating a distance between the healed and the unhealed version of themselves as well.
It will freeze up.
Because you have limitations on how far you can go, how far God can take you, because you're operating in an unhealed
You kind of going in and out, freezing up.
so
Go ahead. You got the floor. Can you hear me now?
we back.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. Usually when somebody trying to call
Yeah.
you, it kind of mess it up. So
um are we good?
yeah.
um if you put limitations on what God can do and how he can show up in you for you, I think that's going to interfere with your ability to heal. I think that's going to interfere with your ability to turn pain into power. I mean, for me personally, not getting to the point or getting to the point where I could recognize God in me was the driving force for me wanting to heal. It was the ignition. It was everything that made me realize I was worth healing. When I realized that there would be other people who would be healed made whole, made better, impacted by my journey that made me want to do it more. Because now I'm responsible for telling people about the glory of God. That's what got me. As Dad, I can do that with ease. So that's where we were. Can't hear you.
They got the sirens going in the background, and so I was trying to drown out the sirens. But we're gonna have to
Oh,
have part two of this much needed important conversation. Because I know you have a healing retreat coming up. Can you tell us about the healing retreat? Tell us about the Queen session. Um,
so this is our second annual Breathe and Let Go Healing Retreat. The reason why this retreat is so important, it is intentionally in the last month of the year, the first weekend of December, intentionally, because it is very important that we pay attention to what's going on in our lives,
yes,
that we
indeed.
are actively involved and participate in what we experience in this life. So my group has gotten together and we've decided that we were going to provide a safe and sacred space for people to come in and take a breath, release all the stuff we done went through all year. And this has been a big year individually for most, but collectively as a community, this year has been a lot. November in itself was a lot, has been a lot. So we need to gather together on one accord to take stock and evaluate what we have done this year, what we have learned this year, what we need, what are the lessons that we need to carry forward into 2025, and what we don't need, we can let that stuff go and release it. What we do need, we can put our manifestation power in it and grow it and nurture it and put ourselves into it. But it's very important because people don't do enough self-evaluation. They don't do enough paying attention, which is why a lot of people find themselves in the same place, in the same, doing the same things with the same people in the same job for 5, 6 years, 7, 8 years, 15, 20 years, because you're not learning and applying. In my sessions, I tell people all the time, there are 3 A's that you must do in order to elevate: acknowledge, accept, and adjust. Acknowledge what the issue is, accept, not just say, oh, okay, that's the issue, accept what I contributed to this issue. Because all of the time, it ain't got nothing to do with who did it to you. It's got something to do with what it did to you. Who are you and what was your contribution to it happening? Did you allow it? Did you stay when you should have left? Did you not communicate what you needed? How did you contribute to it? So you accept that, and then you make the proper adjustments. What am I going to do now that I know this? So we do all of that in the Breathe and Let Go retreat because it's important. It's important that we do that. And having a group around you of people who are doing that same work at the same time is truly powerful. So that's what the Breathe and Let Go is. The Queen sessions are one-on-one sessions that I bring in people and we talk through it. We talk through whatever it is that they are going through. Trauma, we identify childhood trauma, we acknowledge how it's showing up in you, how it has changed you and made you into the person you are. We then try to determine, do you like this person? Do you want to continue to be this person? Or what do we need to change about it? And then at that point is usually when we start trying to identify the spiritual path. What do you believe in? What do you think happens when we die? How can you adjust this and make this a part of your life? What is your spiritual core system? I don't have to agree with that. I just need you to know what it is. Then we can work on your personal power. So those are the queen sessions, one-on-one sessions. They can be virtual, they can be in person. They then we do group sessions of meditation and energy work where we clear chakras. We talk to the ancestors, call upon the ancestors. We do energy cleansing. If you're filled with negative energy, heaviness, stuck, just kind of coming out of a bad relationship or get shifting in some sort of grief movement, we clear that energy out and pull in some positive energy for you. So that's what we consider energy work. So we do a lot of work to just kind of help the person, whoever is sitting across from me, whether it's a group or a couple or an individual, to identify what is best for them to help them get to the very best version of themselves. And the first thing I tell them is, you can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to me. And most of us, most people, have been in survival mode for so long that they don't know who they are. So the very first thing I do is help them identify who they are right now. Because a lot
Yes.
of people are still operating in who they once was or who they were before the hurt, the pain, the trauma. And they have not taken stock. They have not evaluated, am I even still this person? Do I even still want this life? Did I
Mm-hmm.
get married too soon? Have
Yep.
I checked out? Who am I right now? That's where the work starts. A lot of people don't know. People, you'll be surprised. A lot of people walking around here don't know themselves,
I'm
but
not. The
you
other people
will.
be surprised. We've been doing this for so long. Even just when just you starting in December with my life classes, I started in December during that time because hey, we need to get our mind, ready for the new year. So everything has a purpose. Everything
Mhm.
happened for a reason. So listen, I
We
definitely
also picked December because there are a few points throughout the year where energy is light, just all over. Energy is like December is one of those times.
ooh,
If people are paying attention, people start slowing down. They become more family focused. They become more loving. It's just something in the atmosphere. I think it's the holidays. I really do. I think it's the holidays. I think Thanksgiving is a little more stressful than Christmas. A lot of people are taking off from their jobs. A lot of people have more time. The kids are out of school. The pressure is less. So in December, things are just lighter and people are more available to themselves. So it's always good for me to do a December thing, especially as it relates to healing.
So make sure you all sign up. How do they go online to sign up? Make sure you all sign up for the healing retreat. Tell them how they can contact you and just learn more about who you are and what you do.
So you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Funmi Queen Franklin. And Funmi is spelled Fun as in Nancy, M as in Mary, I, Queen Franklin, on Instagram or Facebook. And you can also send an email for details about anything that I do at Hathor, Hathor LLC 601 and at gmail.com. So you can send an email if you have any inquiries about setting up a session, doing a meditation, or if you want to do a group meditation, you get all your friends together and call me and say, come to this place. We want you to come lead us in meditation. It doesn't have to be one-on-one. A lot of people are afraid to do it by themselves. They don't know how to. They want some support. That's fine. It could be 2 of you. It could be 10 of you. It could be 30. So we do group meditations. I usually do a group meditation. We call it whispers and screams because sometimes you don't have any scream in you and you just need to whisper it. And sometimes you ain't got no whisper in you. You got to scream. So we do, group whispers and screams, group meditations. We usually do that once or twice a month. So if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll be able to get that information. And I look forward to anybody. If you are on here right now and you decide that you want to book a session with me or you want to come to the Breathe and Let Go retreat, and you mentioned that you saw me on Dr. J's life class, I will give you a discount on attendance,
There you
a
go.
super duper discount.
There you go.
It'll be worth your while.
It'll be worth invest in you. You know what I'm saying? We spend money to learn all these different things, you guys. Invest in you. I always go to different workshops. I don't care how much it costs. I'm going to invest in me. And so
Yeah.
we're going to have you back, Queen.
You know I
I do
love you,
another
girl.
show after this. Make sure you all tune in to the Other King show starting at 8 o'clock. So we got to run and get that one started. But we would
Okay.
definitely have you back, you guys. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for answering questions, posting questions and comments, and tuning in to Life Class. And we will see you all back in class next week.
Breathe and
Thank
let go,
you.
y'all.
Hey, make sure y'all sign up for the healing retreat. You need that healing in your life. See you
Amen.
next time. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye.